The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are facing a huge question this season. Can they win more than 8 games or not? Vegas has set their win total at 8.5. That number says a lot about expectations. Tampa missed the playoffs last year, and now pressure is building. The division is still weak, but the schedule is not. If the offense clicks, 9 wins is possible. If injuries hit, things could collapse fast. This season might decide everything, for the roster, for the coaches, and for the future of the franchise. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the 2026 season standing at one of the most fascinating crossroads in the NFL, a team balanced between promise and uncertainty, between a roster talented enough to compete and flaws significant enough to derail an entire campaign. Oddsmakers placing the win total at 8.5 is not just a number, it is a reflection of how the league currently views Tampa Bay: competitive but not dominant, dangerous but inconsistent, capable of a playoff push, yet equally vulnerable to disappointment. The franchise that once rode championship momentum now finds itself searching for identity again, attempting to prove that recent struggles were a temporary detour rather than the beginning of a downward trend. What makes this projection especially intriguing is that Tampa Bay still operates inside a division widely considered the most unstable in football. The NFC South lacks a clear powerhouse, which creates opportunity, but it also creates pressure, because failing to capitalize on a weak division is often viewed as organizational failure rather than simple misfortune. Winning 4 of 6 divisional games would immediately put the Buccaneers in strong postseason position, and history suggests that scenario is realistic, yet the margin for error outside the division is razor thin. Offensively, continuity may become the defining factor in whether the Buccaneers exceed expectations. Stability in scheme, terminology, and play-calling rhythm can often produce dramatic improvement without major roster changes, particularly for quarterbacks who benefit from familiarity rather than constant adjustment. If Tampa Bay's offense develops timing early in the season, drives will sustain longer, the defense will stay fresher, and close games may swing in their favor. That is the optimistic projection analysts see when they imagine the Buccaneers clearing 9 or even 10 wins. However, optimism in the NFL is fragile, and it only takes a short stretch of injuries or a mid-season slump to shift momentum completely. Tampa Bay has developed an unfortunate pattern of inconsistent stretches under pressure situations, where situational football, third downs, red zone efficiency, late-game execution determines outcomes more than raw talent. If those issues remain unresolved, the ceiling drops quickly, and suddenly the under becomes the safer prediction. Defensively, the narrative is even more complicated. The Buccaneers have historically relied on defensive identity as their backbone, a unit expected to create turnovers, apply pressure, and control tempo. Yet recent regression has raised questions about sustainability, depth, and adaptability. Modern NFL offenses evolve rapidly, and defenses that fail to adjust to motion-heavy schemes, spacing concepts, and quick-release passing attacks often struggle even with talented personnel. For Tampa Bay, improvement doesn't necessarily require dominance, it requires reliability. Holding opponents under control in key moments rather than producing highlight reel performances could be the difference between 8 wins and 10. Coaching also becomes central in this equation. Leadership stability can inspire confidence, but it can also amplify scrutiny when results falter. Entering 2026, the coaching staff faces heightened expectations, and every early season result may influence a public perception of job security. Pressure environments can motivate teams, but they can also create tension if adversity appears quickly. Another major variable is roster transition. Veteran leadership has long defined Tampa Bay's locker room culture, but questions surrounding aging stars and contract decisions introduce uncertainty. When franchises begin balancing experience with youth movement, performance volatility often increases. Younger players bring energy and upside, but they also bring inconsistency. Draft selections and free agency acquisitions will play a critical role in determining whether Tampa Bay becomes deeper or merely different. Depth often decides NFL seasons more than starting talent, especially during the inevitable injury waves that hit every roster. If the Buccaneers successfully identify impact rookies who contribute immediately, projections could shift dramatically upward. If not, thin rotational depth may expose weaknesses late in the season and late in the games. Schedule difficulty may ultimately become the most decisive factor. Non-divisional matchups against elite or playoff-caliber opponents create a brutal gauntlet where even well-prepared teams can accumulate losses quickly. Facing high-powered offenses and disciplined defensive units forces Tampa Bay to play near-perfect football multiple weeks in a row, which is rarely sustainable over a full season. However, challenging schedules can also accelerate growth. Teams that survive early adversity often emerge stronger and more cohesive, particularly if they steal unexpected wins against stronger opponents. Momentum swings are real in the NFL, and one signature victory can change locker room confidence entirely. Conversely, a string of close losses can create doubt that lingers for months. That psychological component is rarely captured in statistical projections, yet it often determines whether a team exceeds expectations. From a strategic perspective, Tampa Bay's path to the over relies on efficiency rather than explosivity. Controlling time of possession, minimizing turnovers, and winning situational battles would allow them to stay competitive even against stronger teams. The under scenario, meanwhile, involves familiar risks: defensive inconsistency, injuries to key contributors, offensive stagnation, or late-season fatigue. These outcomes are not extreme hypotheticals. They are realistic possibilities that have appeared in recent seasons. This duality explains why sportsbooks positioned the line exactly where they did. The Buccaneers are not projected to collapse, but they are also not trusted to dominate. Recruiting and roster-building implications extend beyond 2026 as well. A playoff appearance would validate the current competitive window and attract free agents seeking a contender, while another disappointing season could accelerate organizational changes, potentially reshaping the roster philosophy entirely. Younger players often develop faster in winning environments, meaning this season's outcome could influence talent progression for years to come. Fan perception adds another layer. Tampa Bay supporters have experienced championship highs recently, which raises expectations compared to rebuilding franchises. Patience becomes shorter when fans believe the roster should compete immediately. Energy inside the stadium, media narratives, and social media discourse all contribute to the emotional climate surrounding the team, and that climate can subtly affect player confidence and organizational decisions. Ultimately, the Buccaneers' 2026 season may not be defined by talent gaps, but by execution margins. The difference between 9 wins and 7 could come down to a handful of late drives, a few defensive stops, or one unexpected breakout performer. That reality is what makes their projections so compelling. The Buccaneers are neither a clear contender nor a clear disappointment waiting to happen. They are a team suspended between outcomes, capable of surprising either direction. If offensive rhythm stabilizes, defensive discipline returns, and leadership maintains focus through adversity, exceeding the 8.5 win total becomes highly attainable. If inconsistency resurfaces and injuries disrupt momentum, falling short becomes equally plausible. In many ways, the Buccaneers embody the NFL's most dramatic competitive space, the unpredictable middle, where seasons are decided not by obvious weaknesses, but by the smallest details, the narrowest moments, and the psychological resilience required to endure a 17-game marathon.